Bradford, and it's my opportunity. There's appreciation and gratitude involved in that opportunity to be able to offer today's message. And the message that I'm offering today is titled Loving Speech and Deep Listening. This is one of the 5 basic Buddhist precepts is to refrain from harsh or untruthful speech. And my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, offers a mindfulness training on this topic that includes both speaking and listening. So today I would like to share this training. It's very rich, and explore its various aspects, and look at some practical ways to apply that in our daily life. I feel like there are so many opportunities to practice loving speech and deep listening, most especially during a contentious political season. So if I could have the slides, please. Thank you. We can move right along to the next one. Okay. So I've broken this training into 3 parts. This is part 1, which is about awareness and the purpose of loving speech and deep listening and the cultivation of those qualities. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I am committed to speaking truthfully, using words that inspire confidence, joy, and hope. So I'm going to just work with this one for a little bit. Awareness. All of Thich Nhat Hanh's trainings start with the phrase, aware of the suffering caused by something. And so I think being aware of our speech and how we listen is kind of key to this. And even later in this particular section, knowing that words can create happiness or suffering. So this is very much about awareness. That's a very big Buddhist thing, is awareness of stuff. So awareness. And then I'll look at the purpose, in order to relieve suffering. That's the big one. To promote reconciliation and peace. Those are part of how we are working to relieve suffering. It's kind of and if we look at non-harming as a kind of basic ground, this is a little more, I think, than non-harming. It's healing as well. That's kind of our purpose. So, and the thing that really strikes me about pretty much all of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings is the cultivating, that we will cultivate, we'll nurture, we'll grow things. And that means to practice. So when it says, I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening, it means I need to practice doing those things. I need to practice. So I have to pay attention. I have to be aware of what kind of language I'm using, and then practice some kind of language that is loving and compassionate. And also be aware of how I listen. I loved these kiddos in the front this morning. Who's the person I like to talk to the best? And for me, the person I like to talk to the best is the one who listens the best. I don't know about the rest of you or even those kiddos, but I think that's probably universal. I'm not sure. So how we listen And I can certainly aver from the last several months that if I'm not compassionate and taking good care of stuff that's happening inside, it's really hard to listen to somebody else. I can even ask them, how are you? What's going on with your whatever concern that I knew about last week? And they'll talk, and I'll stand there and I'll listen, and I am listening, but like half an hour later, I have no idea what they said. I can't remember. So it takes a lot of practice, and I have practiced a long time. It takes a lot of practice. And so when we practice, we are cultivating. We're cultivating how we speak, how we listen. So I'd like that next slide if I could. This one is all about anger. This is the middle section of the training. When anger is manifesting in me, I am determined not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and mindful walking in order to recognize and to look deeply into my anger. I know that the roots of anger can be found in my wrong perceptions and my lack of understanding of the suffering in myself and in the other person. I will speak and listen in a way that can help myself and the other person transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. So that first line, when anger is manifesting in me, I am determined not to speak. Now, probably your mother or your grandmother a long time ago told you when you feel angry, count to 10. That probably is familiar to several people. And really, Thich Nhat Hanh would have you take 3 deep breaths or take a walk. Those are the advice that he would probably give. But the example that he offers is, let's say there is an event that's a peace activist event. And if the peace activists are angrily yelling slogans and they're cultivating anger within themselves, and they're not actually promoting peace in the world. That's a very basic Thich Nhat Hanh way of looking. Coming out of Vietnam in the 1960s, war all around, and coming to this country and seeing that many, maybe most of the peace rallies weren't actually peaceful. So that's a concept that, I don't know, you can think on that however you like. So what he's working with is anger arising and refraining from engaging in the anger, from acting on the anger. We can go back to our breath, we can count to 10, we can take a walk. One of the things I've learned from this teacher is to see anger or any strong emotion when it arises as like a crying baby. I remember babysitting, I remember when my kids were little. The crying baby, if the baby is crying, there is something that needs attending to. It could be a hungry baby, it could be a very tired baby, it could be a baby that's being poked or pinched or wounded in some way. Could have diaper rash, could be teething. There's something wrong with the baby. And if a baby is a hard image for you, maybe there's something that you care a lot about, puppy dogs or kittens or something that you can imagine, something that is suffering. And this is a tenet that if someone is angry, they are suffering. So if I see, and anger is not my particular go-to emotion, mine's anxiety, so I have held this anxiety baby in my arms and said, what do you need to get curious about whatever this strong, most likely negative type emotion is, and what do you need? And maybe it needs you to take a walk, or maybe it needs you to listen to music, or maybe it needs you to, I don't know what, but to instead of react and reach, and say something harmful, to look in. Oh, anger is here in me. What does it need? What does it need? How can I take good care of that anger? So, anger and listening. With deep listening, our only purpose is to relieve the suffering of the other person. Even if the person who is talking is full of wrong perceptions, their facts are not lining up with how I see reality at all. The most skillful thing to do is to practice deep listening. Maybe not need to do or say anything. If the person's angry, and there could be a time later, a few days later, whatever, to perhaps be in a calmer state and discuss where the facts aren't lining up, that something was perceived that wasn't correct. That would be a possibility. And the other thing is that most people, angry or not angry, we're probably partly right. We're probably never 100% right about anything. So to just leave a little space in that way. So that was kind of a section on anger. If I could have the next slide, please. So this section, the closing section, is about general non-harming and coming back to that cultivation. I am determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division or discord. I will practice right diligence to nourish my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear that lie deep in my consciousness. So that first sentence, determined not to spread news I don't know to be certain, not to say anything that can cause division or discord. I find that a beautiful aspirational statement. I know that I have uttered words that I wasn't completely certain about. Might have thought I was certain, but really wasn't. And yeah, especially when I'm not at my best, I might say things that could be divisive or upsetting. And this, I will practice right diligence. It just means I'm going to make an effort. I'm determining to make an effort to, again, nourish my capacity to cultivate, to practice understanding, love, joy, inclusiveness. How easy it is when we're in a sort of confrontational way to exclude. You aren't my people. I don't like you, whatever. But to try to cultivate some openness to allow other viewpoints, to see something beneficial or good or true in the other person. And I really love this last part, transform anger, violence, and fear that lie deep in my consciousness, to know that that stuff is in me too. It's not always in that person over there. It's here too. It's in all of us. When we cultivate understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, when we work on those, when we practice being those and doing those, that does reduce and possibly potentially transform our own anger, violence, and fear. It's like, you don't have to be I'm going to work on reducing my anger. I'm going to work on reducing my fear. You don't have to work on it. You can just cultivate those other things. And that automatically is working in our subconscious to do that. So, I would like to share that there's two examples from my own life. One is I mentioned about the anxiety. What does this screaming baby mean? This anxiety that was so bad I was just shaking, and like literally shaking, and I could not sit down. I was supposed to sit down and meditate, but I could not even sit in a chair. I had to get up and move. And so I'm looking at this baby, and I'm like, what do you need? Who are you? What do you need? And I chose to rename anxiety a different name. I called it pointless, frenetic energy. And I later became kinder and called it just frenetic energy. Later I was able to actually just call it anxiety by its true name. But when it was frenetic energy, that clued me into what it needed. I needed to move. I needed to do something with my body. So I had these 6 errands all over town that I had been procrastinating. And I said, okay, we're doing the errands. And I did all 6 of them, one after the other. Boom, 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 boom. And by the time I got back home, I wasn't shaking, or at least hardly at all. Okay, I was, feeling some space in the chest, feeling a lot better. And so, yes, anxiety arose again, possibly later that day or the next day or whatever. But you know what? It didn't raise to that same level. I have never had that level of anxiety since then. It would arise, like a few days go by, it would come up, and I was actually able to sit down and meditate with my friend, anxiety, my little friend, my little baby friend, and be okay. So I really love this cultivation, this practice, this curiosity, this listening inside, so that we can be able to listen outside as well. My other example was just the other day. My daughter is really going through a very rough time with her family, and she wanted to know, she texts me, can I call you in 15 minutes? And I just need to talk. And I said, can it be 30? Yes, okay, I'll call you at 30 minutes. Boing. She called, and she told me everything that was going on around her and what her concerns were. And they were feeling pretty valid to me, her concerns. And she was really, really distressed and didn't know what to do. And she wanted me to tell her what to do, but I can't. I'm not an expert in those things. So basically, I just listened. I just listened. And I told her, I just want to validate everything that you are feeling. I just want to validate that. That's real. That's true. That's all true for you. And she, thanked me for listening, and she had to go to a meeting, and okay, fine. And then I realized that after I went to bed that night, I just kind of slept on it, and I got up in the morning, I went, oh, but I do know a couple of things. A couple of things I feel really clear about in this moment. And so I emailed her those things and allowed her space to choose whatever she wanted, and these were my thoughts, and urged her to go to the expert and rely on those, but that I was clear on my thoughts. So it instead of just reacting and saying things to her, I'll let her have that space, and that also gave me some space. And really all I did was listen. Those are my best offerings today. I thank you so much for your attention, for you listening to me. And we'll close with that.